Hey, Laura.
Hey, Marissa.
What time is it?
It's Divine Mother Earth time. And what does Divine Mother Earth time mean? It means we collectively turn our world around and humanity and the planet are sovereign and free. And on 4th of July, we can't think of a better guests than Brian Brase of the Freedom Convoy and Amanda of H.O.O.V.E.S, who is committed to bring healing and transformation to those who are struggling to find their way.
We love anything that deals with healing and transformation. So we are so happy to have you both on. So Brian, I'm going to read your intro, your bio, and your name is Brian Brase, right? Or Brase? Is that it? Okay. And
you got it wrong.
Yep.
You're former military, you're a trucker, the co-organizer of the People's Convoy. And thank you so much for doing all that and fighting for our freedom. You're host of You're welcome. You're the host of the Brian Brase Show podcast. You're a second generation trucker. You own a mom and pop long haul business, 6 years in the industry. You hail from PA, but you live in Ohio. Was the co-lead on the People's Convoy, which trucked across the nation in 2022 from Adelanto, California to Washington, D.C. You were in the military. You're engaged to be married to Kayla. Are you married now?
We're engaged.
Okay, you're engaged. Congratulations on your engagement. You just bought an old farmhouse and you're remodeling, and your teenage son, Dominic, in the height of lockdown, took his life by suicide in 2021. We're really sorry to hear about that. And just as the People's Convoy was about to begin planning, after the People's Convoy wrapped up, Brian, you say you went into a deep depression, and it was only then when you were mourning your son's loss, a friend of yours, a veteran, saw that you were spiraling around Easter time. And that's when H.O.O.V.E.S came in and saved your life. So we need to ask you, Brian and Amanda, how did you two meet?
I'm going to read Amanda's bio real quick first.
Okay.
And it's incredible. I saw the documentary, I think a year or two ago, or just when, I don't know when it was, but it moved me so much. And I have a close friend, or a friend that is doing similar work with horses and vets and just trauma. Lonnie, what? Wells. Okay. So anyway, it's incredible to meet you two, and especially 4th of July time. So let me just share about Amanda. Amanda H.O.O.V.E is a founder, CEO, horse and human potential practitioner, healing facilitator, published author, and Air Force First Sergeant. Through decades of studying horse and human behavior, Amanda has developed powerful insights and evidence-based solutions that help both horses and human actualize their full potential. Amanda's passion is to deliver powerful events that create a clear path for participants to access deep levels of awareness and move into cohesion and self-mastery. Amanda has earned a place in the 2022 Success Magazine's 125 People of Influence by spending over a decade empowering veterans, equestrians, mental health practitioners, facilitators, executives, and businesses gain the clarity and confidence necessary to obtain their high-level goals with ease. So, whoa, going into that first question, Marissa.
Yeah, how did you two meet, and how we know you were introduced by a veteran, but what happened? Well, what happened after your friend connected you two? Tell us.
So you had kind of left off about me going into a deep depression. Part of the People's Convoy thing was me basically burying myself into something, right? To keep my mind off of the trauma I had gone through with the loss of my son. When that kind of wound down, I had actually kind of hit a point where I needed to go home because nothing I did anymore was keeping it suppressed. I went home to be with my girls, my daughters, and my fiance, and I just kept spiraling. It was getting worse and worse, and nothing I did was bringing me back to who I was pre my son's death. My brother then passed away April 5th of this year, and at that point, there was nothing I could do. I didn't have any tools to keep myself mentally stronger, or to combat these different traumas that had happened to me. Never was taught those things. And I ended up going to my brother's funeral. And at that point, nobody in my life had known that I was actually planning to take my own life. At that point in time, my brother's death was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. It finished me off, is what I basically say. So at that point, I was a dead man walking, but nobody in my life really knew. I was faking the smile, the laugh, trying to hide my tears, trying to pretend I was stronger than what I really was. And a good friend of mine that I went to high school with, who was also a Marine veteran, who suffers greatly from PTSD, he walked up to me at my brother's funeral, and he knew without me saying a word. He claims that he could see it in my eyes, and he had said, "You need help." And he basically referred me to Amanda and the H.O.O.V.E.S program. At that point, I had still kind of kept my silence about what was going on. But then finally, when I got home from my brother's funeral, I broke and told my mother and my fiance that I needed help. And I applied online through H.O.O.V.E.S to attend the H.O.O.V.E.S retreat. That's when I met Amanda.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Wow.
And yeah, and Brian showed up like many veterans tend to do, unsure, not maybe 100% willing, and very kind of on edge, and he was very forthcoming about that. And so I try to stand at the sidewalk and meet everybody as they come in. And so he walked up with his fiance Kayla, and he was very honest from the beginning, like, "I'm kind of skeptical. I don't know. I'm here, but we'll see how this goes." And I think one of the things about H.O.O.V.E.S is we're a no pressure to heal organization. So as he was sharing that with me, I was like, cool. I could sense he was nervous. I told Kayla she was welcome to stay with them for as long as they would like. And I knew, and I can sense, but I knew the moment that he walked up, even in the state that he was in, I could sense that he was going to have amazing breakthroughs here.
Can you kind of take us into just the first time that breakthrough happened and what that experience was like with the horses?
It was a journey.
Yeah, it's every day. You basically conquer another layer of figuring out, or I don't know how the proper words for it, but it's like another layer of the onion is peeled back every single day. So you dive deeper and deeper into that trauma or into things that have happened over the course of your life. You learn a lot about yourself, and every day you dive deeper and deeper into it until you finally come to this culmination point. Like she said, when I arrived, at that point, I was a dead man walking. I had already made up my mind that I was going to exit stage left. Okay. I was trying to figure out ways to make it look like an accident so nobody knew that I had taken my own life. Coming here, my fiance literally had to stay here a little bit because she wanted to make sure I didn't leave. She dropped me off instead of me driving myself here. And they opened up their arms to me here and to the other veterans that I went through with. Honestly, from the moment meeting Amanda and even the other attendees was like the first breakthrough in itself, because in that moment, just this environment alone made me feel at ease. It calmed me down. It not that my head shut up, okay? It was still running a million miles a second, but I felt like it was a safe place for me to just let it out, to take a deep breath. And at that point, walking in, I decided that I'm just going to give it 100%. Even though I was skeptical, even though I was worried about it, I figured the worst thing that could happen was I live for 4 more days.
So courage to do that, though, to go through that process. I mean,
yeah, it really does. And I think, there's a lot of programs out there, and I always say there are many paths to the sun, right? And we're just one of those paths. But I feel like we take a little bit of a different approach. We are a non-clinical therapeutic program. So we don't practice standard mental health therapy. And so everything that we do is based on returning to nature and returning to self. So we work with nature, we work with the horses, but we also have a meditation walking path. I do some different types of energy work, but this is really an energetic based program. And we keep a unique container, because this is a container of self-healing. It's not coming here to be healed by anyone. And I'm very upfront about that. So when we do our evening introductions, the first thing that I tell people is, hey, listen, there's no pressure to heal. There's no expectation for you. If you want to come out here and you want to have a good time and you want to lay by the pool and you want to pet some horses and you want to eat some really good food, you can do that. That's available to you. If you want to come here and do all the things and radically change your life, that's available to you. But when you leave here, I sleep great at night because I've done the work. And so I'm not attached to your healing. So you can heal in your time. There's no pressure. And I tell people as well, like, we're not here to teach you how to think like we think.
Right.
We're here to teach you how to think for yourself. And so nobody is going to heal you, but you're going to take radical ownership of your life, regardless of what you've lived. And we're going to give you tools that you can work through all of that. And we call it moving from a victim of your history to a master of your destiny.
Wow.
And so that's really what we teach people to do, because people come in searching for everything outside of themselves to heal. And we just tell them, it's you.
Wow.
And you have everything you need, but you need the blueprint. And so we start with what's called the human blueprint, but we are a blueprint for you to achieve your own self-actualization. And that's different for everybody, and that's okay. And there's no judgment on that. But I love Wednesday night because I love people coming in, and typically by the time people get here, not always, they've tried everything, right? And they're just done and they're at rock bottom and they're really without hope. And I don't love that people get to that point, but I know that that's where magic is created. It's in that point of no expectation. And so they're so used to, it's like, oh, well, the family, if I don't heal, I've let my family down. If I don't heal, I've let my doctor down. If I don't heal, I've let my therapist down. So there's so much pressure to heal.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
And then I just take it all away and I say, there's no pressure. And then I just watch, I look at everybody's face as I'm giving my spiel and I just watch them go,
they must be so relieved. Yeah.
Honestly, that moment that she did that was like, it changed my whole, even just that very beginning changed my whole perspective on the next couple days. That I think is that the way that she does the introduction, the way that she presents what's going to happen over the next couple days to us in those moments is what made me able to open up and able to take that deep breath. I mean, it literally just not having that pressure of somebody, it worked wonders. Sitting on the couch talking to the therapist, you have that pressure of that person there, and it's almost intrusive in a negative way, not intrusive. And personally, I can't take pills. I just, that stuff doesn't work for me. And I don't want to live in a fake or foggy state of mind. I want to still be me.
Oh my God. You can see the results too of just your energy and just this inner peace and joy and just like, it's so real. I mean, this is so beautiful and incredible. I'm just, wow. So Brian, besides being a co-organizer for the People's Convoy, you are a former military. You know what it's like to sacrifice for our country. What's happening in our country today, do you feel? I mean,
well, there's a lot of division that I think is unnecessary across the country, both politically and ideology, religiously, politically, in all forms, basically. There's a lot of division in the country right now. And I think this is where it gets back to H.O.O.V.E.S. I think there needs to be a lot more self-care and a lot more care for our communities, regardless of your political ideology or anything else that may or may not be going on or what you agree or disagree with. I think it's important that we all just start getting back into that community mindset. And that's another thing that's just so great that H.O.O.V.E.S does, is help promote that community within our little group here, our alumni. I think we've gotten to the point in this country where now it's time to just rely on each other and help one another, help our veterans, help our community, help the homeless, help everybody. We just need to start helping and caring about one another more. Amanda is literally the beacon of caring for other people, even though she'll say, I sleep good at night. It is what it is. I had a rough time not that long ago, and she still cared. She wanted to talk and wanted to make sure. I felt like I was going to the principal's office. But
beautiful.
Yeah, it's all the more important with where we're at today in this country and really worldwide.
Right.
It's all more important that we lift up programs like H.O.O.V.E.S. It's just that much more important with where we're at today.
And I think too, and I mean, H.O.O.V.E.S does focus on veterans, and we work incredibly well, and we have phenomenal success rates. But we're finding that, I mean, H.O.O.V.E.S is for everybody, right? At this point, I think post-COVID, I think everybody has trauma. But one of the lessons that we teach at H.O.O.V.E.S, and one of the things we focus on, we say when we generalize, we polarize, right? And so H.O.O.V.E.S is a lot about understanding how people work and being the best version of yourself. And when you can just be the best version of yourself, and you can do that little thing in your life to create the ripple effect, we don't have to be the same as everybody else. I mean, obviously, a lot of people in the military have a similar political perspective or perspective on what's going on in the world, but we teach people how to question everything and bring it back to what's relevant for you. And so we say, why would you want to be a second-rate version of someone else or fall into someone else's opinions and views when you can find out who you are and be the best rate version of you? So it's easy to become influenced when you don't know who you are. But also, you can have your own views about life without offending anybody else and without being offended by anyone else when you're strong in who you are. And so that's really a big goal that we have here at H.O.O.V.E.S is to teach everybody to be strong in who they are and understand why everybody doesn't feel the same way that they feel, and how to be respectful but also stand firm in your power as well. And we've seen that just create incredible magic, and the world to a degree needs a certain level of polarization. Otherwise, nothing would ever get done. But I think there's two types of polarization. There's like unbridled polarization where you're just reactive, you're working from the lower mind. And then there's strategic polarization where you're saying, I'm going to use this stance to empower, but it's not going to hurt or take away from people. It's going to give to me, and it's also going to give to those around me, whether they agree with me or not. So
what I wanted to say was, what I really love is that it's about self-empowerment and also what you can bring to the world. So it's service to others. And then once you heal yourself, you go about and heal everybody else.
Absolutely.
And also and it's also about being independent and a free thinking person. And since July 4th is upon us, what does independence mean to you?
You want to take this one? Okay. Well, I love what you guys said in the beginning about sovereignty. Right. So to me, independence is sovereignty. It's the freedom to be who you are authentically without judgment. And I work out in the mornings, and sometimes when I work out, I have these kind of like downloads, or I do my deep thinking. And a couple of months ago, I was working out and I was kind of thinking about the natural laws and the natural law of balance. And what I came to was, I call it the rule of 50-50, right? So if we were all just 100% authentic all the time, we would be maybe radically polarized, and then we would not be able to fit into society, right? So, being freedom and sovereignty and authenticity isn't just being able to do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it. but it's about knowing who you are, living who you are, impacting humanity from who you are, but also understanding the environment around you and being able to strategically, work within that. I think another thing that we talk about at H.O.O.V.E.S is associating to reality and getting out of these fantasies. And so I think being free it's a 50-50 thing. It's taking what you need to be the best version of you, but also understanding that you can't just take, and you have to give back, whether that's through time, money, inspiration, listening, sharing wisdom. There's many, many ways to give back, but I think you have to have both of those components to really be effective in that.
For me, I'm just going to refer to basically the last couple of years. I've spent every day since the night my son took his life completely and utterly mentally and physically shattered, unmotivated, unable to do anything, unable to function in society in a positive manner. Even through the People's Convoy stuff, in the background, I was destroyed, and I was putting on this strong stance to get up there and try to motivate others to stand up. This Independence Day is special to me because of the work that I've gone through at H.O.O.V.E.S, because now I feel free. I feel free now mentally. I feel physically stronger. I'm free with how I speak to my children, if that makes sense. I don't know the exact words. I guess what I'm trying to say when it comes to talking to my kids is I don't put that, I'm the father and I need to be a little stern and I need to be real with them in the sense of buck up, I'm free to actually talk to them about how my children really feel. And I think that they now feel free to talk to me about what's really going on. So this Independence Day is absolutely special to me in that sense. And that's only because of the work that I was able to put in myself. That she facilitated.
That's making me tear up. Wow.
Because when you set yourself free, you set others free. I mean, you're setting, when you set yourself free, you're setting others free. You pass that on and it has a ripple effect, and then they take that with them and they're able to, it's just being more present, being more, it's just, so incredible.
It is incredible. It's beautiful.
I mean, approximately 22 military veterans a day take their lives by suicide. Why is this happening? I mean, and
you go first.
To me, my experience through the last several years in military experience, the VA is not equipped properly and in what they need to be able to actually help these individuals appropriately. Or I guess I'm a big believer that the VA should be, through our federal government, and funding obviously is important, but I believe that they should be offering ulterior methods of treatment. The clinical laying down on the couch and pumping you full of meds does not work for a lot of people that have the same mindset as myself. Okay, the veteran alpha male, omega female, alpha female personalities are going to struggle in those clinical environments. We're just going to. We're wired differently, and I think it's important that the VA has the ability to recommend and potentially fund programs like H.O.O.V.E.S, where they can have these alternative methods of treatment. Because clearly, when we're losing 22 a day, clearly what they're doing now does not work effectively. I know that there are people out there that benefit every day from therapy and from medications, but there needs to be other options for these folks. The 22 a day obviously are not being able to be treated appropriately through the clinical methods. And I think that if there was more exposure and availability to programs like H.O.O.V.E.S, we would be saving a lot more lives. They saved my life. And, obviously the trauma of losing my son is what really drove me down. But through the program of H.O.O.V.E.S, I learned that a lot of things that happened as a child to me, and I had a fantastic childhood. I'm not, love you, Mom. It's not that I had, but there are experiences that happen that develop your character and how you process and who you become. And we learn about that actually through H.O.O.V.E.S. But those things that have happened to me prior to my son's loss is what wired me to how I handled my son's loss, I guess would be the best way to say. And so I went down the path that I went down because I didn't have the proper tools, and because I do have an alpha male personality. I'm not going to lay on a couch and talk to somebody. I'm not going to fill myself up with medicine because I don't like that I don't have control over who I am. And the VA isn't offering anything else. Our federal government isn't offering anything else. And I'll get up slightly political for a moment on this. All of these politicians say that they care about our veterans. They care about taking care of our soldiers when they get back, but yet they restrict what is available to them. Only recently are we finally able to go to our primary care physician. And, you know, before we had to wait 3-month lines to even get into the VA. Mm-hmm. It's no wonder why we're losing 22 a day. You're restricting on our treatments.
Right.
I too now will get a little political, and I don't often do that, especially because I'm still serving in the military. However, as as an organization that offers non-clinical support, we are only privately funded. We are not gaining access to these grants, federal money, state money, because every time we go on to fill out an application, it's, there's all these credentials, and are you doing this, and are you administering medication? And there's so much red tape and there's so many loopholes, yet people from the VA are sending their clients to H.O.O.V.E.S that they can't help break through. And, and again, I will never knock any other modality, and everybody's journey is their own. And I'm not saying anything against therapy, but therapy is not the only way to heal. H.O.O.V.E.S has been proving that. Well, we started our retreats in 2017. We've helped almost 300 veterans through our retreats, and every one of them has healed without therapy, and they've healed themselves. But it's really hard for us. Our budgets are so tight, and there's so much that we would love to do that we just can't do because we rely on people donating checks in the mail. And there's millions of dollars in funding out there that we just aren't gaining access to because we're not checking those clinical boxes. And it's a challenge for sure.
And quite frankly, I'm actually like almost upset at how many people will say that we got to help our veterans. We got to help our veterans. We got to do something. And then I put together like a fundraiser, right? One of those birthday things that you can do on social media. To try to raise $2,600 because I want to sponsor another person to come through. I want to try to give back, and $900 with 30,000 followers, and I raised $900. To me, to sit there and say that you want to help veterans and we need to support. I understand not everybody can give, financially. Obviously, I get that, but I mean, $1.
I know. No, wow. No, my goodness. Yeah, so this is what this shows. It's like, come on. I mean, wow. And this
really is challenging. And I've hired consultants to come in, to help us with our funding. And they have said, all of them have said the same thing. Like, we are disturbed and we are impressed at the same time because we can't believe how much you guys have done on the minuscule amount of donations that you're receiving. And I just feel like we have so much more to give, but we are tapped out until we can get access to some of this funding. Most organizations don't make it past 5 years on private funding. We've made it 13 so far. And, God and the universe is a huge part. I mean, I feel like at the end of the month when I'm like, okay, I don't know how we're going to get through next month, a miracle always happens. And I have full faith that will always continue. But we want to do more. And now we have all these veterans that have come through and learned this work, and they want to give back too. And it's, you know, we almost have this like incubator going on, and these veterans that come through all have ways to give back too. And we've been trying to find ways for them to help the community. So we have like Tim makes these beautiful wood pens. So everybody that comes through the retreat gets to lathe a pen where they use that pen to rewrite their future.
Wow.
Heather does rage painting. So she's an art major, and she comes in and facilitates rage painting, which is totally awesome and cathartic. And so we also want to find a way that H.O.O.V.E.S can help the community as well, and people who aren't veterans, because I know everybody is suffering to a degree, I think, at this point. But to go back to your original question, why are we losing 22 veterans a day? I have my own personal theory just based on what I've seen in every veteran that's come through the door in the past 13 years. But I believe that people make the decision to take their lives when they feel or believe that that which they truly want in life will not ever be available to them. I feel like that is
no hope then. Is that what you mean?
pinnacle. Yeah, they lose hope. And, you know, maybe that's like, I don't want to feel pain anymore. And I feel like that's not ever going to be available. It's, I want this relationship and I'm never going to have this person, or I want this financial situation, but I'm never going to make that money. I mean, it spans through different ways, but you know, the first thing is feeling like that the life you want is not available to you. And I think it's even more critical for veterans because we've been programmed to think and respond a certain way. And it's like, you know, having feelings will get you killed. So we run these programs, right? And our brain, our neural pathways default to what we've been trained to do, whether we've been in, you know, it takes 21 days to create a habit. Some people have served 3-4 years. Some people have served 20-30 years. So there's this level of programming that we can't show weakness. Showing weakness gets you killed. That's a core belief. And it's just Brian said, and this is what I see, you know, every time I meet a family who has lost their veteran, it's not the ones that are reaching out for help. It's not the ones that are making the Facebook posts, you know, people who are going to take their lives. It's like you never knew. We have to watch out for the people that are overly funny, right? Comedy covers tragedy. We have to look out for the people who are overly boisterous or helpful or have poured themselves into someone else. We lost one of a Marine veteran from our community, Gavin Smith, a couple of years ago. And people were like, what the heck? He was on these boards and he was doing all this stuff for other people. So it's really the people that don't seem like they're doing poorly that need us to check on them.
And as somebody that had that state of mind, that's where the People's Convoy is basically coming into play for me. I you know, you guys have seen me on stage, I assume by now, doing my spiel, and I poured everything I had into it, and it was my escape for that moment. But then you hit a point where that doesn't work anymore. Right. And by then you're almost ashamed to tell people that you're not doing well, and you basically hit the state of mind where, see ya.
Yeah, you want to be strong for everybody and show that, you know, strong face, and behind it's like all that is going on, and to be able to bring that out and not let that create, you know, any further destruction is such a huge step that bringing a voice to, and it's just going to encourage so many. I mean, I'm going to be putting this on the homepage of my website for people to just donate and become involved and really be a part of this greater support.
Yeah, I hope you guys, I hope we help raise money for you guys. I mean, it's so important what you're doing, especially because
collective in all trauma.
Yeah. And you know what? My father was a pharmacist who was anti-medication. He had his own pharmacy, which was a pharmacy health food store. He had a doctor of nutrition. And one of his last jobs, he went around to nursing homes and he pulled the elderly off meds because they were like, nodding out and comatose, and they were like losing their life force because they were overly medicated, and he pulled them off meds. So
that's
I
incredible.
understand.
That's
Yeah,
so
it's
incredible.
Yeah, but I understand, like, the big pharma, they just want to over medicate you to the point where, and that's not a band-aid. I mean, some medications do work, but when medication is a band-aid and it's used to solve your problems instead of dealing with it and peeling back the layers like you do at H.O.O.V.E.S. And I just think I commend you so much for what you're doing. And can you tell us a little bit about what the process is and how it actually works and what the stages are? And also, I just want to say one thing, Brian. I mean, and what Laura was just saying about how you're supposed to be really strong in the military and put your, best face forward. You're an alpha male. To come out and say you need help. That is like the most courageous thing.
This is a strength beyond alpha male strength. I mean, this is like the ultimate strength, and this is allowing the deep soul connection and soul connection with the mother earth and nature and the animals. And this is what this is about, that we can connect to. This is the great healer, that we can be raw and we can be just in surrender mode to allow ourselves to feel into these traumas and pain and release it, and not medicate it, and not just try and cope and just live and just continue on. And it's like, this is the ultimate way we get so intimate with those on the other side too, and understanding such a larger picture that brings us like peace, and out of the fear and out of the just, man.
I just got lucky. Honestly, I got very lucky that I had enough break in the way that I was, how I was thinking and feeling, and I just got very, very lucky that I had a small window that I was strong enough to ask for help. God's will, Mother Nature, I don't know what it was, divine intervention, but I got very lucky that I had that, and it was a very tiny window where I had the courage, the strength to ask for help. And it was a small window, but I had that moment where I wanted to live. I didn't want to die, but I wanted to die. I wanted it all over. And I got lucky. I got very lucky. I'll let her explain, but I just wanted to add that to.
Well, everybody listening though is going to just feel that if they don't see that small window, they can maybe look again and it's there, So
yeah, it is. And I always try to tell people, hormones and brain chemistry play so much into this. And when we get into those panic states, it's not us that wants to die. It's the chemicals that our brain is releasing. Our hormones drive us. I think women understand that more than men, but it's there for men too. That if you're in one of those spaces where you're like, I can't do it anymore, I don't want to live anymore, that is not you. It's your hormones, and that your body will absorb those. So even if you feel like, okay, I'm done, give yourself an hour, 2 hours, and revisit that, because in a lot of those situations, people who have tried to commit suicide and have been unsuccessful, they've had that moment where they're in the process and they're like, wait, this isn't what I want. I think that's pretty much everyone. So, I always try to tell people, it's basically what Brian did. He said, okay, well, I'm just going to wait a little bit longer. And then, I don't know if you pray or what your religion.
I got, when I went into H.O.O.V.E.S, there was a little bit before the retreat, and I was scared at that point whether I was going to make it. And I just said to myself, okay, Brian, 30 more days, 29 more days, 28, 27, 26. You got this, Brian. We're 26 days away. Like, you can do it. You can do it. Just trying to, and I'm literally like doing the looking in the mirror thing. Like, Brian, you are strong. You are okay. You got this. 26 days, 26 days. I literally was doing that to get myself here. And then the day of coming here, I was trying to find ways to get out of it. I was like, I don't need it. I'm good, but I needed it big time.
Yeah.
So how does H.O.O.V.E.S work? Can you talk us through like day one and like the whole process? Like
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. So we have a system, and I don't know how much you've read about my story, but I was basically diagnosed with bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, and complex PTSD. I was told I would never be functioning. I was medicated out of my mind. So basically I empathized because that's where I was at. And the doctors, they were like, we don't know what to do with you. So we're just going to drug you and make you not feel anything because we can't help you anymore. And fortunately, I think that alpha female tenacity in me was like, no, I am a good person. I try really hard. I don't understand why I feel all these ways, but I'm not accepting this. And I really set out on this journey. And it's interesting because H.O.O.V.E.S is ever evolving. So it started out with just working with veterans one-on-one, then groups, then 1-day workshops, then 3-day retreats, now 4. And we're actually going to move to 5 days next year because there's so much content. We need another day, which is awesome. But things really started to change for me when I realized that nobody was going to heal me. And I just entertained the thought that maybe I could heal myself. And I think that intention, put me on that path. And I tell people who come through H.O.O.V.E.S, if you come back in 6 months and I'm still teaching the same thing I'm teaching today, I've failed you. I have failed you. So it is ever evolving. But where we're at right now is the veterans come in on a Wednesday night. We bring everyone in on Wednesday evening, and we just let them chill, decompress, get to know each other, and we do our introductions, and I kind of set some expectations. But our property, that's a whole nother story, but I feel like Mother Earth brought us here. This farm was meant for us. It called us here.
The farm. Where is the farm?
We're located in Swanton, Ohio, which is just outside of Toledo, Northwest Ohio. And it's a 30-acre farm with a long winding driveway, and it's full of these 100-year-old oak trees. And so we work with the land. I mean, the land is really part of this. I swore, my husband and I swore that when our kids grew up and went off to college that we were moving out west, and we totally would have, but this farm brought us here. And so we really feel like this is where we're meant to be. We fly veterans in from all over the country. And actually last retreat, we did a caregivers retreat, and we had we do once a year. We provide this also for the caregivers of the veterans. And we had someone that was from England, someone that was from Germany, and someone that was from Mexico. So we're really getting this in a global reach at this point, which is super inspiring. But yes, so the participants they come from all over the world. And we pick them up at the airport. They come in, or local, and they just decompress. We've got the pool, and then we incorporate a lot of different healing modalities. So we do use essential oils. So Carla comes in on Wednesday night. She brings a Zyto scan. So you can put your hand on the scanner, and it'll tell you which oil is most needed in your body. And then it'll tell you like the emotional root, right? And so as you can imagine, some of these guys, like Brian, probably have never experienced, any of the woo-woo stuff, but everyone's typically a good sport, whether they like it or not, or believe it or not at first. Sometimes they come in and I'm like, oh, this is kind of weird, but whatever. So they get their oil, they get their Zyto scan, we do the introductions, and then we also work with food medicine as well. So we've really tried, especially this year, to get healthy, raw, we still feed people meat. We're not like vegan or anything, but just nutritious meals. We try to show them that it can be practical. And we talk a lot about gut health. And so we introduce them to microbes and, anything from nature that can heal you, we basically have going on here. So we talk a little bit about food medicine. And then on Thursday morning, we kick off the day with yoga. So Sheila has been our yoga instructor for the entirety of H.O.O.V.E.S, and she's just phenomenal. So she comes, we start with some yoga, introduction to yoga. And then we have about 4 hours of classroom work. And so in that classroom work on day one, we really talk about finding your blueprint. And so we call it the human blueprint. But what is intrinsic to you that helps you be you? You know, we talk about, we're not a religious program. Any religion is welcome to come, but we pull in the universal principles, which are translated into every religion, and the laws of nature. And we show people that you are as unique as a fingerprint, and there are things within you that you must support. And there's other things that can change. And some people come in here and, you know, they're not who they were when they joined the military. They're not who they were when they were serving in the military. So who are they? They don't know. And so we ask these questions about what their lives are demonstrating, like, what can you do that time stands still and you feel in the zone? You know, if you were to listen to 100 podcasts, what topic would those be? So we just help them pull out what's naturally inspiring to them. And then we connect them with a partner, and they sit with someone over lunch and they ask each other these questions. And as they're asking each other these questions, they're not allowed to respond, affirm, give opinions. They just have to listen, actively listen, right? And so sometimes it's the first time that someone's been heard in their entire life.
Wow.
So we talk about how to listen to people and how to hold space and how to be heard. And so we figure out who these people are intrinsically. And that's kind of the first step. And then from there, oh, did you have a question?
Keep going. Yeah.
And then in the afternoon, we take that to the horses. And so we do an exercise in the afternoon on perception, and how, you know, it's not always reality. And we talk about how our energy impacts the horses and how our energy impacts our relationships and our perceptions impact our relationships. So we really start breaking down who they are and then how they show up in the world. And by the end of day one, people have a pretty good idea of the level of incongruency in which they're operating in their life as it relates to who they are.
I have a question. How does you talk about how people relate to the horses, right? Can you go into that a little bit? Because I was watching the documentary and watching your story, and you talk about how your emotions can affect the horse. Can you tell us?
Absolutely. And you know, it's interesting. I'm like my addiction is research, reading and doing. And so even as I delve deeper into research and just all these retreats and evaluating them, at base level, scientifically, horses are non-predatory herd animals. So what that means is that they have a really high sense of survival or self-preservation. So when horses are in the wild in a herd, and a lot of the horses on our farm are from the wild, we work with a lot of Mustangs. If you're the horse that stands out, you're the one that gets targeted by the wolf. So innately, they are constantly observing their environment and they're blending in with what's around them. Wow. So we all use mirror neurons, and essentially we're all doing that as well, right? They say you become the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? So humans do it too. Horses just do it on an amplified level. And they can see, you know, into us. So from the logical scientific standpoint, what they're doing is they're observing all of our micro movements, our facial expressions, our body language. And so if the people are disconnected, the horses are disconnected. And you'll watch through the session as they start to come back into their bodies, because everybody's chronically disassociated when they get here. I don't think anyone's ever not been chronically disassociated when they arrive. But most people are chronically disassociated in life. So as they start to come back into their bodies and associate to reality and start processing their emotions, the horses, they become magnetic, and the horses will move and magnetize to them. And we can talk about, you know, we take 10 people in the arena with, you know, 6 to 8 horses, however many we have that day. And they all come up with a different perception of who that horse is. Some people are like, oh, that horse is really friendly. Oh, really? That horse wouldn't come anywhere near me. Or, you know, none of the horses would come near me, or the horses were all over me. And so we just talk about reality. We have one reality, which is the actions or inactions of the horses. And then we have 10 different perceptions of each horse of what's going on, of the scenario, of what other people are doing. And we start to learn about how our perceptions can be poisonous or they can be magnetizing, and we get to control that. And so this is when, so day one is kind of like a loading day. And then we talk about the work or the tools, and the work or the tools comes in the form of what we call quality questioning. So one of the gentlemen that I follow, Dr. John DeMartini, he says the quality of your life is based on the questions you ask. So if you want a better life, you have to ask better questions. So we teach people how to say, okay, this is a perception. Now, what are the questions that I can ask to actually find truth and associate to reality instead of continue to live in this one-sided fantasy that I've created about myself or about this person that I have anger and resentment towards or whatever. And so we do that, and horses are amazing because they're instant feedback. The second that you change, the horse changes, right? So from the scientific standpoint, that's really what's going on. From the metaphysical standpoint or the energetic standpoint, we like to say here, horses reflect the life inside of the human. So like a lot of places will say horses are a mirror. But I don't think that horses mirror your mask. They see your mask and they mirror what's underneath that mask. So people are like, oh, you can't be nervous around horses or you'll make the horses nervous. You can't be upset around horses or you'll make the... That's actually not true. Horses are not responding to our emotional state. They don't care. They're responding to the level of incongruency to how you feel and how you're showing up. That's what they respond.
Right.
And so from that, we help people start, dismantling their fantasies and help them associate to reality, to come back into their body and to question your perception and to find, it's all about finding truth. And truth is not one-sided. It's both sides of the coin. Truth is, it's not black and white. It's this and that. Right.
It's so wild.
So, go ahead.
You go ahead.
So that's day one. It's deep.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's just wild because my background, wilderness expedition leadership, it was moving in the direction of taking, people to rehabilitate them with nature, and actually really healed me because of the response, because of everything that you just shared. And it just really brought me back into just like how much just that exposure on that level, was what actually healed me. And that's why I moved in that direction. It's just really incredible. I mean, not only are you rescuing helping people, but, also the horses too, right? So
absolutely.
Share that portion of where the horses on hooves, how that full circle of rescue help between horse and person, this, because there's that element too, right? That you rescued.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing. And, the equestrian field and the equine therapy field is very interesting. And much like politics, there are some very polarized perceptions, and some people are very absolute in their beliefs and how to incorporate horses. And so, nobody's right, wrong. It's not good or bad, but the stance that we take is that horses are our partners. And I'm going to make this a really short side bubble, but I feel like it's relevant since you asked that question. But there are many ways to work with horses, but sometimes horses just become an emotional dumping ground for people, right? So it's like, oh, I'm going to go brush this horse, and then I feel better, and now I'm going to walk away. And that's taking energy from the horse. But what we do is we partner with the horses, and we give the horses a voice and an opportunity to share with the people as well. And I'm sure I haven't fully launched my book or my program yet. It's still in progress, but I'm planning on having it out by October. But I had a very prolific experience when I was going to help my friend train her horse. she was having problems. This horse, she sent it for 90 days training. It was being crazy. It was trying to attack her. It was attacking her other horse. And she called me, and people know when they call me for a problem horse that the horse is never the problem and we're not going to work on the horse. We're going to work on you. So she said, that's why I called you. I said, okay, just as long as you know. So long story short, we get the horse out and the horse starts doing some odd behavioral patterning, and it starts touching an area of its body over and over and over again. And it was almost like the horse was trying to give a message, but it could, it can't talk. And so we get through, the client has a little breakthrough. The horse has a shift. We put the horse back outside. It shares hay with the horse it was trying to kill an hour ago. So we've made some progress. The client made some progress. I knew she still had more, but we were done for the day. So I went home and I just kept replaying this in my head, and something in me said, go get your meridian charts. So I got my meridian charts and I looked up, and where that horse was constantly touching was the spleen meridian. So I looked up all the emotions in the spleen meridian, and they were verbatim the words that were coming out of this client's mouth. So I call her and I'm like, I think I might have just gone insane. However, what do you think about this? Because once we finished that session, the horse stopped doing the thing. So I said, I'm coming back next Friday. And I just put together this, it's an equine communication chart based on where energy is blocked in our body. So what I think is happening is these horses are picking up on where our energy is blocked, and then they're showing us by either touching parts of our body or touching parts of their body to show us, like, here's where the energy is blocked, and here's the underlying emotional component to it. So I make this little chart. I go back a week later. I say, has the horse done the thing? Nope, hasn't done the thing. We get the horse out, put it in the arena. It's doing the thing again, biting the side, biting the side, biting the side. So we go down to the root of where the client needed facilitated. She has a amazing awareness. She integrates her trauma. She has a full somatic release. The horse completely stops doing the movement. And then it goes, like, as she was talking about her trauma, the horse was like acting it out in the arena. It was like rearing and going towards the door, which is being like abhorrent. And then boom, she has the breakthrough. She drops to the ground. She releases. The horse comes over and the horse puts her lips on the back of my client's neck, which I now later on learned that's our spiritual portal.
Wow.
So this horse didn't want to just be a tool. The horse wanted to be a partner, and it had something to say. And after this breakthrough, the horse never did any of that stuff again.
Wow.
And actually, she had the horse for sale, and the horse wouldn't sell. We have this second session. 3 days later, 3 is the magic number. The horse sells and goes to the most perfect home for the horse. And she said, my friend said to me, I don't think that horse was here for me. I think that horse was here for you. And I said, well, I think the horse was here for both of us, but yes, definitely me. So that was the start of these charts that we now incorporate into the retreat. And
it's like, this is part of the stuff that I was skeptical about, and I have firsthand experience of being in the arena over here, the round pen. And do
we have that on video? Did somebody capture that?
I don't know if they caught it on video, but I have pictures on
his
my
session
phone.
was
I'm
insane.
actually going to walk away for a moment to grab it just to show you one of
see
the
it.
photos. But the horse talked to me. I mean, and you're never going to convince me otherwise. The horse was talking to me. It was me talking to me, but it was because of what the horse was telling me, and the moment that, I mean, like she said, I had that release. It all changed. My life changed after that experience. After that, like, it was the whole thing together, but because there were so many things I had to learn to, like, be able to spot myself when I'm spiraling, being able to see those warning signs, understand why I feel a certain way, because there's certain things that my blueprint requires in myself to feel certain ways. And it's very complex, and that's her science, not mine, but it works. It literally works. It works if you work it. I mean, I kind of stealing something from Narcotics Anonymous program, NA, it's called, that people go through for treatment. They have a saying that says, keep coming back. It works if you work it. Not that I had to go through it, but I'm familiar with people that do. And their one line at the end is, it works if you work it. That couldn't be any more truer than H.O.V.E.S. It works if you work it. If you give yourself to this program 100% and do the work, it works. I'm going to grab this picture for you while she explains more.
And there's a video you said too.
Yeah, this is amazing.
Oh yeah, I need to see. I have I don't know if Brian's video got recorded, but I know Aubrey's video did get recorded, and hers, same retreat, phenomenal, insane. Just, they're always insane. I feel like if we could record every one of these round pen sessions, people wouldn't not believe it. But yes, the horse has the message. They come with the message. Once you get the message, the horse shifts and stops doing whatever it was doing.
Incredible.
And so I've been using the charts for about 2.5 years. And when it first happened, I was like, okay, it happened once. I'm not a blind, I'm a skeptic myself. And so for 2 years, I tried to disprove that these charts were actually allowing horses to communicate with us. And I've not been able to do it yet. They haven't been inaccurate yet. So we'll see. I'm still further studying it, but I'm confident enough now that I think I'm ready to release the book in October. So
a little bit of a backstory on this a little bit was part of my healing process. I had learned that, and I actually made a comment to her even that, like, I was kind of against the Mustang being in pens and like they're meant to be wild and free and running, and I quickly learned that I was wrong. but through the process, a lot of my stuff had to do with being grateful, meaning be grateful for the time I got to spend with my son, be grateful for those experiences I had, be grateful for the rest of my family and my friends, be grateful to the people and everything I have. There's no need to run away from it. And there's a lot more that went into that conclusion, but the horse, Ellie was her name, picked a card for me. And this was like after she was already talking to me through motions and what she was doing. The horse picked the card. She held out a card, held out a bunch of, like, a deck. I have a deck of
equine wisdom cards, and I fanned them, and then the horses will pick them.
And the horse literally picked. I don't know if it'll show up on the camera.
Oh,
I think it will. We're almost there. But pick grateful. Gratitude.
Wow.
And then
oh my God.
while I was reading it, like while I was reading the card, and this is like I'm having my release at this moment while I'm reading this card, okay? Like I'm struggling to keep it together. But while I was reading it, hopefully the picture shows up. Ellie is putting her head right there on the back of my neck.
Like a portal at the spirit. What is that called again?
That's the spiritual portal.
The spiritual portal. Wow.
It's
amazing. What do you think of this, Laura? Isn't this amazing?
Unbelievable.
It gives me goosebumps, even just like, even her talking about day one, even just remembering like what we went through in that day one, like me telling a complete stranger my stuff, like why I'm like, when he's asking the questions and he's not allowed to give any feedback, he just has to listen to me. I'm not talking to no stranger, you know what I mean? Like, but the exercise gets you to actually like start opening up and like realizing more about you. And then on top of it, learning more about this complete stranger, because he's got to do the same thing I just had to do. Like her explaining just day one gives me a bunch of goosebumps. And then talking about like her client where she went over there and did, and I had to show you that because that happened to just about everybody, where the horse, like literally what she's saying is true. And I don't know if your listeners are gonna, think, oh, hocus pocus, right? I'm telling you, as somebody that would have said, oh, that's a bunch of hocus pocus, that it's not. This is real. And it really has a lot of healing properties to this. Every horse stayed away from me when I got here. I couldn't even get anywhere close to a horse. None of them. And I'm not like normally a horse person to begin with, but every single one of my daughters, like I'm a horse dad. And I couldn't even get anywhere near these horses. And it all came to me wearing a mask, not being who I really was. And once I started shedding back those layers, as the days had progressed, the horses were more and more and more with me. And I don't think it's because, oh, they're seeing me around, they're getting comfortable. No, it's because I was reflecting who I really was, and I was healing. And those horses they literally play just as much of a role in your healing as what her classes do in the classroom work. They go hand in hand together, and it saved my life. It literally saved my life. I was a walking dead man when I got here, and I walked out so excited for life. Even today, here I am 2 months, basically 2 months since.
Oh, 2 months?
It's only been 2 months for me. So
Wow.
I was a walking dead man. And now I'm here smiling. I'm having fun
I
in life.
would have thought it would have been like a year ago.
I know, me too. Wow.
2 months ago.
But that's the thing. The changes here are immediate and they're sustainable, because we're not, we've empowered, and and I tell you, it doesn't mean that you're not going to leave and never have a bad day or never have, those bad days are necessary, because if they're for our growth. If you're not being challenged, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're dying.
It's like, this is the biggest difference between the therapy and the medicine, right? Like, that is, in my opinion, again, nothing wrong if that works for you. Doesn't work for me, and there's many others it doesn't. But what this does was teach me to heal me.
I love that.
I take care of myself because of the tools that her and the horses have taught me. I learned who I really was at my core, not who I wanted people to perceive me as, but who I really am. And just knowing who you really are helps to heal you. So when I do still have bad days. I lost my 16-year-old son. That doesn't go away. That still messes with me. Father's Day messed me up, right? Like, those things are still going to happen. But the difference is that now I can recognize it. I can see that, like, I'm struggling here. I think back to the work. I think about my daughters, my friends, my family. I think of how I'm acting, what I'm saying, and those things help me get to the next day, help me get to that better day, or help bring myself out. And do I still have a slip up here and there? Absolutely. You're going to. She doesn't heal you. She teaches you to heal you.
Yes.
I still have bad days, and I've been doing this for a decade, right? And it's not about not having bad days. It's about associating to the reality that challenging days are inevitable. But now you're empowered to work through that. I don't want these retreats to be like some rah-rah fest where I just polarize people into more fantasy, and then it's great when they're out here, and then when they go home they crash and burn. Like, that's not what this is about. I'm very upfront. Like, this might be the hardest thing you ever do. It's like a soul upheaval. It is work. It is hard. But again, choose your hard. Is it hard to come here and do soul work, or is it hard to not want to live every day of your life? It's choose your hard, right? But I know that this works. I've never seen it not work. And we just got through day one.
And that was just day one. Wow. So, what's interesting? I mean, what you do is pretty much what Divine Mother Earth Time is about. When you say, Laura, it's about self-empowerment. It's about blueprint, about working on yourself, and then working, with other people. But it's
I'm
always
reading a book about this.
He's writing a book about this, and I can't wait for your book to come out. By the way,
I can't wait.
It's really been a transfer. It's been what I got out of H.O.O.V.E.S has carried on to even my family, to my relationship with my family. Like, I've become a better father in 2 months. I've become a better employee in 2 months. I've become a better human being walking the earth in 2 months, where I used to get like basically uncontrolled road rage. Now I just kind of back off, and I'm like, must have a more important day than me.
H.O.O.V.E.S does heal road rage.
It does. I used to be, so customer service was a big thing for me, where I would get like really just frustrated with somebody on the other side of the counter. Like, your job is to make sure that I'm smiling, right? Like,
I agree on that one, right?
Yeah.
But something I realized is, look, everybody's got their stuff. You have no idea what that person on the other side of the counter is going through. So just be calm, cool, collected, go through the motions. You'll get where you need to go. It'll all come to you. You'll be okay. You don't need to freak out on the 16-year-old behind the counter that can't count $3 and change. Just they'll figure it out.
I just love it.
But I was that guy that, like, customer service, right? And now I'm completely, other people around me are doing it, and I find myself actually talking to another customer in line, and I'm like, hey man, like, they'll get it. Chill out. Who
Changes
cares?
the whole environment of that workspace too. Just
It does.
this is
And
like next level warrior energy, though. I mean, it's like literally conquering, any kind of gatekeeper, any kind of obstacle, or any kind of thing on the deepest of soul levels. That is just, it's just.
Yeah, this is amazing.
It's amazing work.
And we do work with corporate teams. They got to be ready for it. And we just launched the Patriot Project which is our youth program, because we got to get these kids, before the age of 12 is really when we get most of our core programming and our core challenges. And, after the age of 12, we just live in a feedback loop of what's in our brain, what we've been programmed with. And so if we can, the way to change the future, I mean, we've got to help the adults, but the way to change the future is we got to get to these kids before they get sucked into the system.
Indoctrination. Yeah. I mean, we talk a lot about that. Right,
When you say feedback loop too, and just the whole, like, the head thing, there's this this is where it all gets broken down. It's almost like what you shared about that part of the head is where one is, like, breaking the chains of any, like, of the looping. It's like, then it's the infinity spiral, and it's the connection to God's source, and just like your own, so something came up with that. But oh my God,
I feel like we could podcast for 3 days straight.
I know. I know.
We have so much to talk about.
I know. Oh my goodness.
Well, you know what else is interesting too? I mean, I love that you're reaching out to the children, not just for the indoctrination, but through this whole pandemic and lockdown, children were so traumatized. So to reach out to them and to heal them, because I mean, that's something that we talked to Dr. Zelenko a lot about, and he talked about the trauma of the child and what it did, and like the social distancing and the mask, etc. And to reach out to the children, I mean, I think that's really huge. We really
the number one cause of death for children ages 12 to 18, individuals ages 12 to 18 around the world, the number one cause of death is suicide.
Wow.
Because society has created a fantasy that children cannot live up to, and they don't have the tools and resources to see that it's a fantasy, and so they take it personal, and then they don't feel worthy to be alive.
And oh my God, important thing, they know that this is that doorway, like you said, because there's that inner doorway to know that you can walk through it, but then to this doorway that you've created with H.O.O.V.E.S, it's just any parent or anybody listening, just knowing if your child is going through this, that there is this resource and option that can turn everything around. And I just feel this is just going to ripple out and become, what this world is, this rehabilitation of all this trauma. I mean, getting out of all the historical trauma too, just that this planet has gone through, and all these wars and fighting for our freedoms. And that is the independence and sovereignty that we are reclaiming and doing this deep, deep healing work. It's just, this is it. You're doing it. And it's just such an incredible mission, and just, where you're taking it and experiencing it for yourself, and how you pass that on to your family, Brian, and everybody around you, and just your experience, and how that just gives a person that inspiration. I mean, I had one of the hardest weeks that I didn't think I was going to get through. And like, I can tell you that just, I knew I was going to get emotional in this interview, but yeah.
You did say that before we started recording.
I know, I was like, yeah.
But here's the thing that I learned is it's okay to get emotional. It's okay to let that stuff out. It's okay to express that which is something that me growing up, it was not my mother did nothing wrong. I love you, Mom, I swear. But I was raised, a man is a man, and you man up, buck up and get through it. And then it translates into the infantry and the army. Man up, soldier up, you know, and that caused a lot of the blockage that I had that entirely led to me being that walking dead man coming here.
Well, it's interesting.
I was about to say, it's like the clouds rain. The clouds rain. It's like the sky falls rain. It's like raining. We are elemental beings. We need to express. We need to, when the tears need to pour, this is a part of who we are. When the fire needs to, you know, our fire, our warrior spirit, you know, we're elemental. It's like I'm walking monsoon season here.
Well, and I'll share this with you as well, you know, because I do believe, like, it's not our strength that connects us to people, it's our vulnerability, right? And sometimes when I'm facilitating H.O.O.V.E.S, I get emotional too. And we had our caregivers retreat last week, and you know, things have been incredibly hard financially because the way that we've run, it's not working anymore. Our economy is different, and I'm faced with some really hard decisions right now. And we, on day 3 of the retreat, we have a 1-mile walking meditation path. And so I have these headphones, and we listen to these really beautiful songs, and we walk this path, and we do kind of like the Buddhist meditation with the heel, pinky toe, big toe.
Another thing I was skeptical of.
What do you mean the heel, pinky toe, big toe? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so in the Buddhist meditation walk, you walk, and we do it. We did it barefoot last time because it was warm enough to do barefoot, but you connect with Mother Earth. But when you walk, instead of just taking a walk, it's an intentional walk. And so you'll put down your heel, then your pinky toe, and then your big toe. And then your next step, heel, pinky toe, big toe. It's, yeah. And you get into, it's meditative, right? The walk is meditative. And so it really, again, it puts you back in your body. It grounds you to Mother Earth. And people, sometimes they have relatives that have passed on, visit them. They get messages from the divine spirit, you know, like all these amazing things. They release trauma. So these walks are profound. God bless my husband. He's amazing. And he came up with that idea to carve that path in my hayfield, which the first day he did it, I was so pissed off. I cried, "You ruined my hayfield." And then I was like, okay, what's the turnaround? We can have a meditation walk. And then now that's what we do. It's been integral in our program. So we get through the meditation walk, and all the women share about their experience. And I always go, behind, and I work the music. And one of the ladies was like, "Oh, not so fast, Amanda. What was your experience on the meditation walk?" And I just burst into tears. And, you know, I think from like a societal clinical standpoint, it's like, well, you're the facilitator, you shouldn't be weak, you shouldn't have anything to cry about if this work really works. And you know, there's a million things that were going through my head of like, I shouldn't be, I am leading these 10 women and I'm crying, you know. And then I just shared, I said,
strong, not weak. I mean, exactly. Real.
Yeah, I mean,
that ability to say, I am gonna cry because I feel like crying right now, and it's beautiful. And you know what happened is, and I never would have gotten this, and never would have found this out, but there was a woman in the group who has a nonprofit as well. And because I was vulnerable, she runs a multi-million-dollar nonprofit now. And she said, "I was exactly where you were 10 years ago. And I want to be your mentor, and I want to help you grow your organization." And so now she's going to come down and spend the whole day with me, and she's going to help me, you know, develop. And, you know, again, it's like the grants, we've got to get some grants to keep going. And so she knows how to do that, and she's going to help me do that. And if I wouldn't have been vulnerable, I could have missed out on that opportunity, because why would she have offered, you know? So
it's so interesting that this whole world is inverted, because vulnerability really is strength.
Yes, exactly.
That's
And
the
that's what we
ultimate warrior energy. And that's
Yeah.
what's required at these times, is to be real and raw, these facades. I mean, this is what we're breaking down. This is how we dismantle the old paradigm and all the social engineering and all this stuff, everything coming from outside and coming in. It's like, no, we break those chains through being vulnerable, through being raw, and like really looking at that trauma. It's like the ultimate step of the warrior spirit and energy that is needed on this planet right now.
I agree. And that's like the real
feeling
yeah.
It is the real power. And and every month we have, every month since the history of H.O.O.V.E.S, we've had men sitting around the table here just sobbing. And it's so beautiful. And to me at this point, it's just a norm. We tell people, we live in full expression out here. Like, we really do. This is not, I guess I'm so blessed to live in this authentic environment that I'm just probably 90% authentic most of the time, and then people come in and they're not used to that. And I've realized I can help people feel really uncomfortable because I'm so comfortable being me, which is just a reflection of their gap, right? But it's beautiful when you hold that space and you're like, well, I'm not judging you and I'm not judging me, and we can all just be who we are. And then, boy, people just start to pop. And in every retreat, I think we have that conversation that crying and showing your feelings is the strongest thing that you could ever do. And, it is, and it's what the world needs to hear.
Until H.O.O.V.E.S, since my son died, I would, because I didn't want my kids and I didn't want my fiance to see me being vulnerable or being weak, as I was calling it at the time. I was afraid of being perceived as weak or less of a man. I would let it build in me all day long until I could get in the shower. And then I'd get in the shower, and that's when I would just fall. I'd just let it out. The exhaust fan in the water would drown out the sound. And then, of course, I would wash my face and everything. When I got out of the shower, nobody could tell I was crying. Here at H.O.O.V.E.S was the first time that in front of people, other than like initially when my son died, the funeral, I couldn't even help it. I couldn't hide that, but that was like the first time I let it out in front of people, especially strangers. And I let it out every day, multiple times a day.
And he kept apologizing. We're like, stop apologizing.
Oh my God. I know how that goes. I'm always apologizing for all my emotions to my husband. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm having another, oh man. Just constantly.
Honestly, you could go check out like the H.O.O.V.E.S Instagram or Facebook page, which I'll let her talk about that. But you can go see all the stuff on there, and you'll literally see people that are tagging H.O.O.V.E.S, on like the community post and stuff like that. And most of them are all people that have gone through a retreat and have literally turned their entire lives around and are active in the community now, or they're living a healthier, more productive lifestyle. There's so many examples just on social media where you can see it. I'll let her. Can you tell them all what the social medias are?
We try to, obviously respectfully highlight, what's going on. So as we go through the days, we share like our yoga pictures. On day 2, we do a meditation with the horses. So I'm a practitioner of what's called CCT, the crystalline consciousness technique. And so it's kind of like Reiki on steroids. So instead of channeling energy through our body, we pull from the energy grids. And these are grids that the horses know as well. So they come up to people and give messages to the people. And I know, I don't know if you want to talk about.
I had, it got to me so much that I actually afterwards, I told her I was never doing that again. But now I'm actually.
But he's coming Wednesday to do it again.
Wednesday to do it again. I'm scared to do it again. I'm scared. But actually, the same horse that I connected with in the round pen, where we did the card thing, Ellie came up to me and I know it sounds whatever, but
I need to see if I can find that picture.
It was my son. My son was there. My boy was there, trying to give me a hug. he was trying to give me a big hug and let me know he was there. I mean, Ellie literally was like on me.
She put
like
her leg on him. I'm trying to find it.
Yeah, I have it.
Do you have the picture?
I have a picture of it.
I believe what you're saying 100%.
He was sitting in the chair and she just came and like put her hoof, didn't hurt him, just held her hoof like on his lap.
Wow.
No.
Oh, I wish we could see it more clearly.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And she just held it there.
Oh man.
Oh, wow.
No force to it. No, nothing. And she stayed there. I mean, and
gentle.
and she kept like,
Put it a little
like, I gotta put it closer, I think.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
She just hung out there with me, and it was like I could hear my son talking to me while the horse was there. And like I felt alone. I have not felt my son since he died. I just, everybody says, oh, I know he's there. I can feel him. I can this, I could that. And I've learned what that meant since, but he was there in that moment because I really needed him. And he was there and he was giving me a hug and he was letting me know he is with me. He might not be with me, but he's with me. And what I have learned through some other things that we did was he's with his mother and his sister who need him more than I do right now.
Wow.
So while I don't have any signs of my son being here or feel like he's gone, which was leading to me wanting to, like, I needed him.
Mm-hmm.
It's because he's with his mother and his sister right now because they need him really bad.
Wow.
And
I have a
I am
question.
strong enough to go ahead.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
I like your shirt, by the way. I just realized what shirt you're wearing.
Free the people. I did it. Thank you. My question is, okay, so do you think, because your emotions were open, and do you think that the horse was a conduit for your son? How do you think that worked? I mean, I have no idea. What do you guys think? I'm opening that to everybody here.
I absolutely do. And again, like when we pull from these energy grids, you know, we just open the space. And a lot of times people who have passed on, you know, and so my perception of death is kind of, you know, I mean, we're all vibration and frequency, right? And so if you have a radio, that radio is going to transmute that signal. And if you smash the radio, it doesn't mean the signal goes away. It just means the vehicle to transmute the signal is gone, right? And so, yeah, I do believe that the horses can do that. And actually what's interesting is then we had a lady who lost her son to suicide come through this last retreat as well. And Brian really helped kind of coerce her into coming because
she was actually my sponsor. She's the one that sponsored me to come through. So she paid what it costs to put a veteran through. She actually, through her foundation, paid for my spot to be in the retreat. And she had lost her son to suicide.
Yeah, Christian, her foundation is Christian's Corner Foundation, and Christian was an Army veteran. He was living in Alaska when he took his life. So she started the foundation in his memory to try to do something in his honor. And that's how I met her. And then she sponsored Brian. And we always invite. And one of the things that we love about H.O.O.V.E.S is we don't like to tell you about what we do here. We like to show you. And so we invite everybody that sponsors a veteran to come and watch their veteran graduate. So she came and he talked to her, and, you know, she really realized she was at a point in her life where it was time to heal. It had been 2 years and she didn't feel like she had had any healing. So she came, but it was interesting because she had some expectations based on Brian's experience and what he shared with her. So when we got to her meditation with Horses Day, the horses didn't really interact with her at all. They didn't go near her. And it was because she was, you know, there was expectation, allowing, you know, she wasn't ready and she hadn't had her like release yet. So she had a little bit of a rough day that day. She had a rough day in the ring with the horses. They weren't cooperating. Again, they were showing up as her mask and reflecting that. And then the next day, she had some profound healing. We have an exercise that we call the 7 areas of life. And so we teach the 7 areas of life: spiritual, mental, vocational, financial, social, family, physical. And we have hula hoops that we put, people get to put props that represent each of these 7 areas. And they take the horses to each of the areas, and horses give them feedback through the charts on where they're blocked or what, you know, they could be looking at. So her horse wouldn't go into her life at all, wouldn't go to any area. And then she, in the afternoon, had a shift and a breakthrough. And so we had just gotten done with the arena work. She had been tremendously successful with the horse. And when she lost her son, she had to go in the basement and get some stuff for his funeral. And the first box she opened was a picture he had drew when he was a little boy. And it had a picture of the family, and then it had a butterfly. And it said, if I was a butterfly, I would fly to heaven because it would be cool. And so her message to him is always, show me the butterflies so I know you're here. So she gets done with this experience on day 3, and she walks the horse back. And as she's coming back, a butterfly comes and lands at her feet.
Wow. What are the chances?
Right?
And then she gets on the ground
Yeah.
and puts her finger out, and the butterfly comes and gets on her hand, a wild butterfly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
And she held him for for 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's nature speaks to us in this way, and this is something I've experienced so much in my own life too. And the butterfly story too, that something very similar happened to me, and it just, I thought it was injured at why it was sitting for so long. Like, you can't fly. I was like so touched that, because somebody had passed, and it was symbolic of this transformation journey, and the whole symbology of like, and so much with like nature, and just in so many people's lives, and everything that you're saying is just, this is how nature, speaks to us, because the spirit realm and the realm of nature are so, they're in oneness with each other, and this is how we stay connected to those that have passed the other side. And that's really lifting the veil between life and death, and that pain of separation is, there's no separation, and that presence of spirit is expressed through this earth and Mother Nature and all her creatures is just so true, so real.
My time with the horse, when we were doing that meditation where my son came to me, rocked me to my core. She says,
oh my
when it was like over, she says, you can take your time getting up and heading out, take a few minutes. I'm literally like, she's still talking, and I'm standing up and I'm folding up my chair, and I'm like storming out. I mean,
he was mad. He was like, that was not cool.
I was pissed off. I even though it was like really hindsight, right? 2020, like looking back, like that was actually a really beautiful thing. In that moment, it actually just really pissed me off, because I had felt like I had made so much progress up to that point, and now you just shoved me right back into that mind state. I literally had to go to the side of where the classroom is, and my thing has always been, I walk a lot in like circles, because if I don't, I'm gonna punch something. Okay, like it comes up out of me. So I'm walking and crying and walking and crying, and I'm like, I never ever want to do that again, even though it was my son being there. Like, but that was the thing, was I was chasing my son this whole time to like be with him, and like I want to die because I want to be with my son. Like it doesn't matter
like too
about
close
my son,
and not.
It just rocked me so hard. Like it shook every belief system, and it challenged everything in me that I believe and thought and wanted, and it just rocked me so much. And I mean, that was day 2.
Yeah. And I think that's another unique thing about hooves, and I have unwavering faith in the land and Mother Nature and God and, you know, all the elements to bring support. And sometimes people do get very challenged here. It happens. But, you know, it always, like, we have a really solid system. You know, we don't, if somebody else panics or starts, you know, sometimes people will have a very somatic release, whatever the case may be. You know, we have faith in them, and we have this energetic support system that they always work it through. And we know that they're going to work it through.
And that's the thing, is even though I was pissed off in that moment and I was crying and I was raging basically a little bit, right? It all came full circle right after that. Go into the classroom and start learning, you know, and it's healthy to have that. It was a good thing that I did freak out. Like, it was me letting out.
It's a release.
All the programs, all the suppression, all the lack of belief, something that you saw firsthand. I mean, all the anger and rage of holding on to what you thought was.
Well, and here's the thing about, like, that anger and that rage. That night was rage painting, and I totally
paintings.
I'm really fascinated by that.
I totally thought
we gotta move the day. We have to change the day for rage painting.
So I totally thought that I was gonna go in there and just, like, let it all out. I was almost looking at it as, this is my opportunity to whoop Dominic's butt. My son's name was Dominic. I call him Dom. To, like, whoop his butt. You know, like, I'm mad you did this and that you left us. And now I'm gonna, this is me beating your butt for making such a stupid mistake, right? Like, that was, like, my mentality. I go into rage painting and I wasn't even,
Nobody had any rage.
I had no rage anymore. It was gone. And like, I had none. I literally, like, threw the, like, thing, like, twice, and I threw it pretty hard. Like, I did. I winged it. I actually broke my canvas a little bit up on the top, but I didn't have, it was gone. Like, all the rage was gone. And to this day, I don't have any anger towards my son anymore at all. At all. I have no anger towards him anymore. And I think, even though I was so mad about that CCT, right? I was so mad about it. That was like me actually releasing my rage. It was like, he was there, and then and in those moments I was emotional. I was crying with the horse, and he was there, and it was a beautiful thing, and it was amazing. But then that rage came in afterwards, because I can't believe he did this to us.
Right.
And I walked off. I was pissed, and I'm walking in those circles, and I'm crying, and I'm upset. That was me finally releasing all that rage. That by the time the rage painting came from, I didn't have any
rage.
Did you paint anything though? Did you paint?
Yeah.
I did, but
cool.
I even left it here. I didn't even take it home. I was like,
Do you show the paintings ever?
Yeah.
she has some on display and stuff. Like,
there's some on our Facebook page. Yeah, we try to. Sean tries to take pictures of the paintings every month, and so we do have them displayed. And if you sign up for our mailing list after every retreat, we do like a retreat follow up with it, and it shows pictures from the retreat and everything. But I think, you know, again, and I never want to, like, knock clinical, because I think it definitely has its place. But in a lot of these trauma informed care classes, or what they're teaching is, like, you know, if somebody freaks out, you got to go and you got to respond and you got to do these things. And just like with horses, like, that's putting pressure on that person. And if I have to respond to you freaking out, then I'm not helping you. What's going to happen when you leave and you freak out? So, you know, because
the other side of it is you're going to hold it in because you're worried about that person's reaction from you freaking out. So you can't let it out, because especially in a clinical atmosphere, again, sorry, I'm against them. I don't care. I'll say it. She ain't, I am. In a clinical atmosphere, if I freak out, I can't, because I'm worried they're going to put me on a 72-hour hold.
Exactly. Right.
You have to calm
Yep.
one.
Yeah, no, it's
So-
true. That's what's so detrimental about that system.
But here we
And
can
they
hold-
traumatize you more in their treatment.
Right.
Everybody I
Right.
work with, they're more traumatized by the treatment. They're recovering from the treatment.
Wow.
Yes, absolutely. So, we can hold space, and we have a method that we respond. It's not like we're just like, oh, figure it out. We have protocol, but it's a different protocol. And I find that it is effective, and it doesn't happen every retreat, but sometimes it does happen. And our protocol doesn't continue the suppression of the emotions. It helps them deal with it, and it helps them deal with it while we hold space and give them the tools and equip that in the moment. In the moment, they're the ones that got themselves through it. We didn't respond. We helped them respond to themselves, so that if it does happen again, which usually it doesn't, because once it's done, then they can help themselves through it, and they're not going to be dependent on things outside of themselves. So,
I have a
it
question.
is. Yeah.
What is your success rate?
I mean, people ask me that a lot. And I feel like our success rate is 100%, because nobody's ever come
I
through this
thought-
program
Right.
and not healed in some. Nobody's ever come through and said, I regret that. Nobody's ever come through and said that was a waste of my time. Now, this is a lifestyle. So I think, sometimes people come through and they just sleep better at night, or they handle one trauma. Sometimes people come through and they've just got one thing they need to deal with, and then they deal with it, and they move on, and they're fine from then on, and they don't need additional support. Some people join the family and they stay and they come back, which we love. So again, like, there's no expectations on people. So I do feel like it's 100% success, and some people radically transform. And I tell people too, like, the amount, there's a couple of things here, and it all goes back to the blueprint, right? Sometimes when people come through, after they leave, their life is going to fall apart a little bit because they've been living so incongruent. So if you've built a life that is totally incongruent with who you are at an intrinsic level, which is probably making you addicted and depressed and suicidal, when you go back, your life is going to fall apart. But we're here, this is a family, this is a forever thing. So you come through and you're in the family as long as you want to be. We're going to help you navigate how to, and I just told someone yesterday, sometimes things have to fall apart so that they can come back together in alignment with who you are. So it really just depends on how misaligned you are when you show up here, what that's going to look like. But I can't think of one person that hasn't got something.
Some of my experience in this, and what she's saying about it, I think it's 100% successful as long as you continue to do the work. It's up to you to do the work.
Yeah.
So again, it goes back to, it works if you work it. Okay. The alumni that I've talked to, a few people that I've talked to that have had even some more struggle afterwards, it's all been because some time has gone since they've been through, and they just put down the book. They don't continue to work it. They don't continue to grow, in who they're becoming or who they are, or living authentically, I guess is the best way to say it. They kind of stop. They start wearing that mask again because they start worrying again how they're perceived by others. And, and then one thing I'll say for me, how my life has changed, you already know the positives. I'm here, I'm smiling, I'm alive, right? But the negatives of post-H.O.O.V.E.S has been a lot of my friendships. There's a lot of friendships that have gone away. And it took me a minute, and I even tried to salvage one particular friendship with somebody, mainly because I felt bad that they didn't do anything wrong. They done absolutely nothing wrong to me. But what I realized was the friendship that we had built was on the Brian that wants to die.
Yeah, right.
That's not me, and I no longer fit. It no longer fits together. It's not a healthy friendship. But I didn't realize that before, and now I do, and even now I still try to because the individual I'm talking about has done absolutely nothing wrong. And I know that he's a very good person. He'd take his shirt off his back for everybody. But the fact is, our blueprints don't,
There's
don't
no resonance anymore. The
in
old
any way.
is dying with the friendships, and the life changes. It's going to change everything, including your friendships and relationships and everything.
And that honestly scared me a little bit too, because then I started thinking about, well, shit, what about this woman? What about this relationship that I'm in? This, my fiance, like, is that gonna change too? And the truth is, it has a little bit. It definitely has a little bit. But what I'm still learning and what I'm still going through post H.O.O.V.E.S is that it's changing a little bit, because she's so used to 2 years of down, depressed, negative Brian, that like now wanting to live, be a good father, be a good man, go and be adventurous and do things is almost like a shock to her system.
Right.
And so it's taking her a minute to like, what's going on? But then that also causes me some anxiety in times, because I'm like I have a bad day, and then I sit there and I go, oh my God, she's so disappointed in me. I'm letting everybody down. I went to H.O.O.V.E.S, I got better, and now I screwed up today. And the truth is, I'm just in my own head and everything's okay.
Oh my gosh.
And fortunately, I am happy about it that my fiance's blueprint and I still complement each other.
Tried all this together. Yeah.
If anything, it wasn't complimenting each other when I was the way I was, but luckily she's such a good-hearted person that she stuck by my side through all of this journey of trying to find myself again. I got very fortunate that I ended up with somebody so amazing as her, that she could stand by me when I was a horrible, crappy person.
I'm sure.
I mean, it's justified in my head of why I was so horrible and crappy, but the fact that she was able to stay by my side through all of it, just, it's a mind-blowing thing. But at the end of the day, everything I'm saying, I think relationships are going to fall apart after H.O.O.V.E.S. It's going to happen, but it's a good thing.
Yeah, and some aren't.
Weird as it might sound, it's a good thing if it does, because now you're actually living your authentic self. You're growing, you're healing, you're becoming better for society and your community and your loved ones.
Those people. It's just, it can't be what it used to be. You love them from afar, and when it's ready to maybe come back together,
Amanda,
there's no expectation, right? And
I don't remember what day it is, but there's something that Amanda actually mentioned in the class, and she said, there's people that you probably need to push away. It doesn't mean you need to cut them out of your life completely, but maybe hold them at arm distance length until their behavior is corrected. Doesn't mean you have to cut them out of your life, but maybe put them back a little bit until their behavior, meaning whatever that means to you,
they're in a growth period about it.
Compliments again.
Yeah. And to bring that back, so I have an analogy that I use, based on the horses, and another amazing thing about horses is their social hierarchy is very similar to humans as well. But when we can learn so much, and we can gain so much wisdom about our social hierarchy from watching how the herd is run and managed. And so, when the lead mare is over a herd, if a herd member is acting a fool or doing something that's compromising to the herd, she goes and runs them out. Wow. But they don't have to stay out forever. She will hold them out of the herd until there's a shift in the behavior. And the moment that they shift and align with the herd, they get to come back in. And then the second that they don't, they're run out again. And so, we can learn so much from them, but, that's kind of how I encourage people to live their life, because sometimes we're so black and white. It's like, oh, that person did something wrong and they have to be out of my life forever and they can never come back in. And that's not true. And as you change, I mean, some people have never had a boundary and are, their friends, their family are used to them being selfless and no boundaries and serving everyone else. And then when they find themselves and empower themselves, they go home and they're like, I don't want to be your slave anymore. I don't want to pick up after you and do all this stuff for you. I don't want to be at your beck and call anymore. I'm going to take care of myself. And at first people are like, you know, I've had people come back and tell me their best friend is like, I don't like you anymore. I want the old person back, you know? But again, everything has a price. And I tell people, you're never going to have a loss without a gain. But you're never going to have a gain without a loss either.
Right.
So
It's interesting that I've
it's
changed.
all about, managing our perspective and look at, you know, there are two sides. And if we're not considering those two sides, we're living in a fantasy or a nightmare. So,
H.O.O.V.E.S is a much needed program that is costly. How would you, what do you need to continue? How would you like to expand? How can people donate to help you?
yeah, so there's a lot of ways to help. We have 34 horses here at it's a sanctuary. So a lot of these horses have medical conditions that make them no longer rideable or viable in the horse world, but they're amazing healers here that do our job. And so we have a program called the Patriot program. So for $22 a month, you can help sponsor the care of our phenomenal rescued horses. They're all rescues and they all have a story. We also have what's called the Warrior Challenge. So our cost right now is $2,500 to put a veteran through. And so we have that Warrior Challenge is $2,500. If you can't pay that yourself, but maybe you're part of a group or a company that wants to get together, we also have a crowdfunding link on our website to take the Warrior Challenge. And everyone that completes that gets a thank you letter from the veteran they save, and also a challenge coin. So in the military, challenge coins are given when somebody does something exemplary. So they get a coin and a thank you letter from their veteran. And then we're working on the next thing on the horizon for H.O.O.V.E.S is getting an indoor arena. So right now we can only operate from April through October, and we've actually lost this is the first year that Mother Nature has squashed a day for us. But we had torrential downpours and lost an entire day of horse work at our April retreat. And then again, at our last retreat, we lost an entire day. So right now an indoor arena would be life-changing for us. It would give us the ability to then go all year round and double the amount of people that we're helping. So those are our three main areas.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we'll share all the links.
You can donate through the website.
Yes. Facebook, we always have a Facebook fundraiser, and then our website, H.O.O.V.E.S.US. If you just go to the page or click on the button that says how you can help, that's all laid out.
Okay.
This has been the most incredible interview. Oh, go ahead, Brian.
And any of I don't know if you ever noticed, if you're on Facebook at all, you can do like the birthday fundraisers when you got your birthday coming up. H.O.O.V.E.S is listed on there. So if you just type in H.O.O.V.E.S, you'll find it. And you can actually start a fundraiser on your own Facebook page where all of it, Facebook don't even take any funds from it. Everything raised on that fundraiser goes directly to H.O.O.V.E.S.
Yes, those Facebook fundraisers have saved us a couple of times in big ways. And they're really easy to do.
Amazing. Wow. What an incredible Independence Day to be with you both. It's just incredible. This is one of the most moving and profound interviews I think I've ever done. It's just really wonderful to meet you both. And I look forward to just a continued connection and all that I'm just going to change in my life to just really bring this more forward, and everything that I do to expose people to this beautiful, beautiful H.O.O.V.E.S that you've created, and Brian and you and so many other amazing warriors that just stand with you, and in such gratitude, and just linking arms together and just overcoming, trauma and embracing the joy and the unconditional love of creation, to see this much bigger picture that, this is how we win the war. This is on a whole other level, because it's been a spiritual warfare and a war on consciousness, and and all these different things that have been passed down generation to generation of how a man or a woman, or just any of us are meant to carry ourselves and be. And it's like we're returning to truth, we're returning to sovereignty and the soul and Mother Earth, nature, Father God, and all the good things that is what we're here for. And you guys, thank you so much. Any final words, Marissa, and both of you?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to everything you just said, Laura, so eloquently. And I just want to say that I am so grateful to meet both of you. And whenever you have any news or anything you'd like to share, Amanda, when your book comes out, Brian, if there's something you want to announce with People's Convoy or anything else, we'd love to have you back on our show. And I just love the fact that you illuminated how man interacts with animals and nature and how we're basically all one. And if we embrace our individuality and our independence while respecting each other and also coming from service to self, that gives me hope for the future. And that's how we could win this war on consciousness and on humanity and on the planet. And that's really what Divine Mother Earth Time is all about.
Oh, yes. And I
Yeah.
always say, true oneness is diversity and harmony. Our differences are a blessing. We're here to learn from each other. We're here to integrate it. We're here to come together and have mutual love and respect and not be at war with our differences and be pit against each other. This is the ultimate programming to break. It's like we're all in this together to hold hands and rehabilitate and recover. And that is a power and a strength that nobody can touch. And that is our reclamation of true independence and divine sovereignty. And
Well, I'll tell you that
final
there's
word, you
so
guys?
much more to cover about H.O.O.V.E.S that I really think you should do a part 2
Oh,
with
we'll
her.
do part
Don't need
2.
me for it,
We'll definitely
but I
do
really
part
think
2.
Oh, I can't wait.
we only got to day 1.
Oh, yeah, there's
Yeah, we'll
so
definitely do
much.
part 2.
Thank you, ladies, so much. Thank you for what you're doing. The world just needs so much more of this. And you're right. I always say we can't do it alone. And I think one of the amazing things I've noticed in the past year is all of us like-minded people, we're all finding each other and we're coming together in these powerful collaborations because it's going to take all of us to change the world. But I'm seeing it happen, and I believe that we can do it. And the key is staying connected and supporting each other. So thank you for everything that you're doing for humanity as well. It's so important and so needed. I did want to say just 2 things. First of all, we have our sanctuary here in Swanton, Ohio. We also travel. I have gone to Montana once a year to do this work for our Native American tribes.
Good. I want to.
Oh, yay. I'm going to be in Montana in September as well. But we can take this on the road. So if you have a facility and you have horses, your horses need to have no special training, and you would like to host a retreat at your farm or retreat center, we love to travel and we're happy to do that. And second of all, I took the modality that I'm facilitating here. It's called the Equine Wisdom Integration Method. And I started certifying people 2 years ago on how to do this work and use these charts. So I have a facilitator training coming up here in Ohio in October, and I can give you the link for that as well in the comments. But the key here again is sharing this work and lifting each other up. And we don't want to be as small as we are. So we're looking at growth. And if anyone's listening to this and they feel inspired, please reach out. I'd love to have a conversation with you.
Absolutely. Yes.
Well,
It's going to grow big time.
Anybody out there that's struggling, veterans, anybody, you don't have to be a veteran. If you're struggling, I just want you to know that there is better days on the horizon. Get through tomorrow, get through the next day, whatever you need to tell yourself to get through it. It's worth the work. And there are many folks out there for you. Veterans, if you're struggling, reach out. My name's Brian Brase, Brian Brase. Really anybody. If you're struggling, reach out. Talk to anybody, somebody.
And we are working so hard to grow H.O.O.V.E.S to where we can help anyone in the general public as well. So that is on the horizon, hopefully for 2024, to have those opportunities for people who are not veterans as well.
We'll put all your links
Oh,
on
absolutely.
too, so people can get in touch with you, and we hope you grow and be bigger than you.
This is the seed of the new world and the way the world is going to be, and being that force of inspiration to make that change and transformation for the planet is what you're doing. So much gratitude and love to both of you. Thank you so much for being with us today. And I look forward to further connections in part 2 and all the parts that follow, because I know, we're on this journey together, and I'm just looking forward to so much more. But both of
Thank you.
So we're gonna close Divine Mother Earth time, and happy
Thank you
birthday,
both.
everybody.
Happy
Happy
fourth.
birthday.
Bye.